Today we're going to talk about adding a cold shoe accessory to your i2 Polaroid camera. Now, one of the things that I mentioned that I wish this camera had was a cold shoe accessory port, as well as the ability of doing manual focus. But turns out that Brooklyn Camera teamed up with SPRKPLG and they came up with this device. This device is a 3D printed auxiliary cold shoe that can slide onto, as you can see right here, it slides right onto the i2 camera and gives you that missing cold shoe. Now, this cold shoe is really great for a couple of things. One, you could always put a flash in here, something like the flash that I'm gonna demo in a minute. Two, you could put a level in here, a horizontal level that makes sure your camera is perfectly level when you're shooting. You also could put a cold shoe light meter in here, something like the Voigtlander cold shoe light shoe. I've done articles on it before. That would fit right in here, and that would be great if you wanted to use it for the purposes of manual exposure, because you could have a meter right on top of the camera. I looked at the quality of the printing. Let me just slide it off. It's sort of held on by tension. The inside of it has like a felt lining. The 3D printing quality is quite nice. It has an open end here on the back where it goes around the throat of the viewfinder. Of course, the reason for that is that it pinches to provide tension. So when it slides on and you push it all the way, it feels pretty good. But if you look at the front here, if I just pull up on this, it does have some play on that front. I wish that it held down to the camera a little bit better than that. Additionally, the problem with that is that if you're using a proper, in my opinion, a proper auxiliary flash for a camera like this, I mean, let's face facts. This camera has a built-in flash that's good to 8 feet. So if I'm gonna go through the hassle of putting a additional flash on top of the camera, I want something that's gonna have enough power and enough flexibility to justify adding that to it. Now, in my case, I've always used Metz flashes for years. This is a 64 AF1. The flash weighs just about, if not more, than the actual camera, but it's an incredible flash, has tons of manual features and features that I can program into it. It has a full, swivel on the head, tilt, everything that I'm looking for in a flash. So when I take that flash and slide it onto this cold shoe and then tighten it down, because you got to tighten it down, otherwise it's going to launch itself. It's not too bad to hold. It's definitely got some weight to it, but I don't feel comfortable with it because it's sort of pulling off of the camera if I tip the camera back. This particular flash has a port on the side that I would plug my PC cord into, and then on the back of the camera, if you remember from previous posts, there is a mini jack, plugs right in, and the setup would look something like that. And I've done some testing with it, and it's great. Now, I'm not a big flash photographer, to be honest. Very rarely, especially in my Polaroid work, do I use a flash, but this is a reasonable setup if I needed to do it. More often than not, I suspect that this auxiliary cold shoe slide that they put here would be better for triggering other flashes using a remote device, whether it's IR, Bluetooth, wireless, radio, one of those particular methods, because it does seem not quite sturdy enough for the weight of this particular flash. So I have a solution for that. What I would do, owning this particular piece, I don't foresee me taking this on and off the camera. If I'm gonna put it on the camera, it doesn't really change the shape or ergonomics of the camera in any way, shape, or form. So why I would ever wanna take it back off doesn't really make sense. You could take off some of the felt on the inside, put some super glue in there, and just hold it in place and glue it down. That's one option. Another option would be to use something like a really heavy duty, permanent double stick tape, and I would just line it sort of on the sides and on the inside here, push it on, and then press it and hold it in place for about 30 seconds. And I think that would do the trick. And that is what I'm gonna do to mine. So these are about 50 bucks, so it's not cheap, but I think it does add a nice feature to the camera, especially once again, if you want to put a small auxiliary light meter in here, if you want to occasionally put a big flash in there, or something to remotely power and fire other flashes. I also got at the same time from the same kit a little tiny hood that can mount on the front of the camera. I'm not a fan of the hood. The hood has a cutout, as you can see, so it doesn't block the viewfinder. So you line the hood up, it kind of pushes on in place. What I don't like about the hood is it doesn't feel secure. It literally, whether I screw it on or whatever, it just very quickly comes off. I know some people have talked about flare issues with this camera. I love flare, so flare is not an issue for me. Instead of using a hood on this camera, if you're worried or having an issue with flare, what I'd recommend trying first is a good B+W MRC filter. You know, a multi-coated filter like that will do wonders for flare on the front of the lens. It's really quite astonishing how much it helps. I would put an MRC UV or skylight over the front, and then while holding it, you know, I could sort of judge if I needed to shield a sun as well. But I've never had flare on this that was so bad that I ever felt that I needed a hood. So my take on this, the hood, I don't care about. The auxiliary cold shoe, I actually like, and I think for 50 bucks, it's a good purchase. But once again, I'm either gonna tape it or glue it down to the camera so it's permanently mounted. Thank you very much for listening. Now go shoot some film.